Hey there, students. Welcome to Roots Week number 13, day number 3. Just so you know, our passage today is broken up in a little bit of a funny way. That's to make it easier to read, but you just pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. We're reading 1 Kings 11, verses 1 through 13. Then you're going to skip all the way down still in chapter 11 to verse number 41, and then you're going to read from verse 41 into chapter 12 all the way down to verse number, if I can remember it, all the way down to verse number 33. So what that is that's 1 Kings 11, 1 through 13, and then 11:41 through 12:33. Sorry for the complication there. It'll make sense once you get into it. So we're talking a little bit about how Israel failed to be faithful to God. So this starts out being about King Solomon. Now you may remember King Solomon. King Solomon built the temple. King Solomon led an incredibly peaceful and wealthy and prosperous Israel. I mean, like super rich, super wise dude. King Solomon starts out super well, but he does not finish well at all. Basically what happens is he marries all of these foreign wives, and all these foreign wives have their gods, and he basically begins to worship their gods. He does exactly what God told him not to do. And so God says to Solomon this is verse 11, it says, "Since you've done this and did not keep my covenant and my statutes, which I commanded you, I will tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant. However, I will not do it during your lifetime for the sake of your father David. I will tear it out of your son's hand. Yet I will not tear the entire kingdom away from him. I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem that I chose." So what God is saying is, because you've been disobedient to me, I'm going to give most of your kingdom away to somebody else. Because I made a promise to David, I'm not going to give it all away, and I'm not going to give it away during your lifetime, but it's going to happen. So later on, Solomon dies. We come to chapter 12, and this is really just a great chapter for you to read. There's so much. It's a very tragic chapter, but there's so much to learn there. So Solomon has a son. His name is Rehoboam. Solomon dies, so Rehoboam is about to become king. He goes to meet with the people, and they're going to make him king. But they bring up a problem. They say, "Well, Solomon worked us really, really hard. If you'll just work us a little bit lighter, then we'll serve you," which is, a pretty reasonable thing to ask. So he goes on, and he says, "Well, I don't know how I feel about that." He says, give me 3 days to think about it." So he goes back and he asks some of his father's advisors, the old men kind of that have been around and done this for a while. And he asks them what to do. They said, "Well, yeah, go lighter on them, because if you promise to go lighter on them, they'll serve you and they'll be your people." But Rehoboam doesn't like that, so he turns instead and he asks these young men that he grew up with, and they say, "No, make it even harsher on them. Like, you're gonna show them how tough you are. You got to be really, really hard on them." So that's the path that Rehoboam goes. And the people don't have it. They turn their back on him, they leave, they form their own kingdom and leave him in the dust, and things just kind of go downhill from there. Now, why is that such a great story for us to think about? Well, I'm talking to you guys, students, young people. You need to realize that the old folks in your life are probably a lot wiser than the young folks in your life. You may not believe that, but that's true. You should be paying way more attention to your parents, to the folks that you go to church with, to the grown folks that you go to church with, than you should to the other people around you, because they've seen more, they lived through more, they understand more than you realize at this point in time. And it may not make a whole lot of sense to you at this particular moment. You may not get it from your perspective at this point in time, but just trust me when I say there is wisdom in age. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Trust those folks in your life, lean on them, and let them guide you in the way that you live.